Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be going over some sleeper free agents that I think the Washington Commanders should target in the first couple weeks of free agency. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. Alright, so I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend so far, but free agency is right around the corner. Monday, I believe 4 or 12 p.m. is when the legal tampering period starts. You guys can correct me in the comment section below, and then it becomes official, like free agency officially starts on Wednesday, but we're going to be hearing a bunch of these signings that are being made on Monday, and that terms are agreed upon, and then officially the contract will be signed on Wednesday. And do I expect the Commanders to go absolutely crazy? Probably not, but I could see them making a couple signings for sure. And we're going to go over some kind of sleepers that I would like the Washington Commanders to go after. These guys aren't like guys you haven't heard of, or maybe a couple of them are, but these are solid players that aren't going to be making 20 plus million a year like some of the big name guys like Justin Simmons, Brian Burns, and some of the other guys that already got paid like Mike Evans and guys like that. So I might make a full video on my top 5, but these are some sleepers. And the first guy is Devon Armstrong. Talked about him in yesterday's video. He is a played for the Dallas Cowboys and 7.5 sacks this past year in 17 games, 8.5 sacks in 2022, and then 5 in 2021. And before that, really wasn't doing a lot. Had 2.5 sacks in the first 3 years of his career, but has been improving, and the last couple years has been putting up solid numbers, and that's with Dan Quinn. And I expect Dan Quinn to bring in some Dallas Cowboys defenders, and I think Devon Armstrong could be one of those guys. Only thing is that I was doing a little bit of research. He's from Houston, so he might want to just stay in the Texas area. That I don't know how close Dallas is, but it's in the same state. So I could see him wanting to stay in Dallas, but at the same time, if we're giving him more money because we have a lot of cap space and they don't, and he wants to follow his former defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn, where he had his best 2 years by far with Dan Quinn, then I could see possibly him moving to being willing to sign with Washington. So I think this would be a solid signing. You bring him in as your starting DN, and then maybe bring in one other guy as as some competition. Maybe you bring in Clelin Ferrell from the 49ers, and then have him and KJ Henry and maybe a draft pick compete for that starting spot, or for that other starting spot, but that you'll have a good, maybe even great edge rusher in Devon Armstrong, depending on how he does. And I want you guys to stay tuned to the end, because I have a name that kind of is a star, or he used to be a star, but I think Dan Quinn can turn him into an all-pro again, and I think some of you guys at least will like it. Next guy on this list is Conor Williams. He's a center, played for the Miami Dolphins, did tear his ACL, so that might bring his contract value a little bit down. I'm not sure when he's going to be totally back. And over the cap projects a 3-year, $22.5 million contract with a $12.5 million guaranteed. If that's the case, that would be amazing. He played really well last year, and I think he was with the Cowboys before and wasn't amazing, but wasn't absolutely terrible. And for a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, that's less than we paid Wiley. That's a little bit more than we paid Nick Gates. So I would like it. He would be a good addition to the offense. Would be a veteran center that we could have that could call the plays and make things easier for the quarterback, for whoever it is, whether it's Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or maybe even Caleb Williams or Sam Howell. I don't think it's going to be Sam Howell. Maybe he'll play, but I think we're going to be drafting quarterback at 2, and having a rookie center probably isn't the best idea, or even a second-year center in Rookie Stromberg. Maybe he can play guard or compete for a guard spot, or just be the backup center. But I think a veteran center is the move, and Conor Williams would be a solid option for the Washington Commanders, and I would be willing to pay him more than 22.5. I'd be willing to pay him like $8-9 million a year. Maybe even 10. I think he's that good, and he's relatively young, so he's a guy that I think could make a lot of sense for the Washington Commanders. And we'll just look it up right here, just a little bit more information. I spelled Connor wrong right there. So he's 26 years old, so still relatively young, and I believe he played his first few years with the Dallas Cowboys. 6'5", And I think we're going to have competition for him. That torn ACL does hurt his value, but I still think he's good enough to be a good center in this league. And he did tear it relatively early. It looks, at least it looks like it, late in the season. So he might not be able to play until he might not be ready at the start of the season, which would be a loss. And maybe that's why his contract value isn't as much as people think. We'll obviously have our medical people look into, or not our, we'll have the, sometimes I say we because, we're fans of the team, but the Commanders' medical people will be looking into it if they are interested in signing him, and other teams as well, to see how bad it really is. He's obviously going to get a contract, but how severe the injury is might, alter how much money he gets, and how quick he comes back also will affect how much money the Commanders or whatever other team are going to be offering. But that's a lot of talk about the injury. Let's move on to the next guy, Jordan Whitehead, safety. Washington Commanders could use another safety, especially if Cam Curl leaves. And Jordan Whitehead, solid safety, played for the Jets these past couple years and had 4 interceptions in 2023, 2 interceptions in 2022, and then 2, 1, and 0. So 11 over, 6 years? Not an insane amount, averaging about 2 a year. That's better than Cameron Curl. And obviously, interceptions are not everything. Cam Curl did a lot of really good things, but he did not get you interceptions, and you can't be paying a safety that much money. That isn't getting interceptions. So Jordan Whitehead would be a solid option for the Washington Commanders, and a solid tackler, and has been relatively healthy. 15, 14, 16, 14, 17, and 17. You like to see that. So not going to, break the bank, absolutely. It's not going to be super cheap, but it'll be a decent signing, and, a decent price is what I would say. And you cheaper than Cameron Curl. That's at least what I think, especially considering I guess he's still 26. He's still 26, so he's not even that old. He's probably around the same age that Cameron Curl is anyway, so would not mind a signing with him as our safety. And yeah, let's move on to the next guy. So Mitch Morris, recently, this is another veteran center. He's a little older, but he got released by the Buffalo Bills. They had to release a lot of guys. Mitch Morris, Deontay Hardy, who else? Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Naheem Hines, Tre'Davious White. They released a lot of guys because the cap was an issue. And that's why cap space is real, guys. You can manipulate it as much as you want, but at some point, sooner or later, it's going to come back to you, and it's going to affect you. And that's what's happening with the Buffalo Bills right now, and some other teams as well. Doesn't mean some teams aren't better than others at managing it, but it definitely is real. And sorry if it seems a little bit cut out and stuff, just because there's a huge lightning strike, and I think you can hear right now the thunder in the background, but huge lightning strike, so I had to cut it out, and I'm back to it right now. But talk about Mitch Morris, think he'd be a solid signing. 32 years old, only allowed 1 sack last season, played over 1,000 snaps, so he would be perfect guy to help out your rookie quarterback. Maybe he wants to play on a 1-year deal, 2-year deal. He's done a lot of winning. I think he won a Super Bowl in Kansas City. Has been playing with the Buffalo Bills last few years, and I think I said it. If not, he worked with Bobby Johnson in Buffalo as well. I think they overlapped when Bobby Johnson was there in Buffalo. He was also there in New York as well, or not. Mitch Morris wasn't there in New York, but Bobby Johnson was just the New York Giants offensive line coach. It's probably the coach that I'm least excited about, but hey, we're going to give everyone a chance here, and we'll see how he does. But Mitch Morris would be a solid signing for the Washington Commanders. Not going to have to break the bank on him, and I would assume it's like a 1-year deal. I wouldn't really want to give him much more than that, maybe a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, but he is getting older, and you never know how these guys go. Even if he plays 1 good year, that age could really catch up to him, even 1 off season or 1 even little injury, and then they're not the same player. Okay, so those are 4 players. Here's the 5th player, Devon White. And a lot of people are going to be like, no, Devon White's washed. He's not the same player. And hey, I can maybe agree with that. But at one point, people were like, this guy's the best linebacker in all of football. He helped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win a Super Bowl. And I think Dan Quinn can fix him. You look at these sack numbers. 5.5 sacks, 3.5, 9, 2.5, 2.5. I mean, the least he's had is 2.5. Hasn't really dealt with many injury issues. 13, 15, 17, 17, and 14 games. Gets, about over 100 tackles a season. And a couple interceptions. He's not a great coverage guy. He'll miss some tackles, but overall he's a solid tackler. Can force some fumbles as well, I think. Let's see. Yeah, forced 6 fumbles over his career. But I think, obviously, I'm not saying Devon White is Micah Parsons, but he can rush the passer even better than Jamin Davis. And that's going to be a whole separate video that I'm going to make. But they're kind of, or at least Dan Quinn is thinking about switching up how they use Jamin Davis. At least that's what Ben Standig said in his article. So they could use him more as a pass rusher, Jamin Davis. Devon White already is used as a pass rusher, but can be even used more as a pass rusher. He's bigger than most linebackers, and he obviously would be small for an edge rusher, but they could use him more as a, I guess he's not as tall as I thought, 6 foot, 240 pounds, but they can definitely use him a little bit as a rusher. And he's probably going to want a 1-year deal just because he's not going to get the money he thought he was going to get. So maybe it's a 1-year prove-it deal with a lot of incentives. If he balls out, he'll get a huge deal, long-term deal that's worth 15 plus mil a year after that. If not, it's going to be a bunch of 1-year deals until he balls out. So I don't know how much it would be, but I don't think it's going to be much more than 10 million. It's a linebacker. I'm thinking less than that. I really don't know. I'm not completely sure what it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be too much money to get Devon White, especially on a 1-year deal. So I would really like this move, and I think you have to do a lot of boom or bust signings when you're a team like this where you have a lot of money and you have a lot of holes. Just throw up a bunch of shots, see which ones fall down. And it's not a lot of risk. Like, it's not like we're contending for a Super Bowl right now and we have to hit on all these signings. No, we do not have to hit on all these signings. We're not going to hit on all these signings. And if we can go ahead and find a couple, diamonds in the rough, a couple gems, hidden gems, that's good. And we can either keep them for the future and hopefully they, want to stay because we did help develop them, or we trade them or tag him, or let him go and get a comp pick. So that's what I would do. I think the Commanders did a good job of that, or I guess the football team or Redskins when it was 2020 when Ron Rivera came in, brought in J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, Wes Schweitzer, Cornelius Lucas. None of them were studs, but a lot of guys that ended up being key role players for them in the future. And that was a good, and Ronald Darby too. Like, that was a good offseason by them. And I hope they do something similar, maybe with a little bit of higher key players, but I hope they kind of approach it that way. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.